Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 287. I am your host, Keith Andrew. Along here is the talented and beautiful Ms. Silva. And I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, for people who want to know what my talk show is about, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into a perfect example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities. But you should never give up or have people label you, and you should prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be, and that you can still amount to something. Now, with that being said, half hour, 45 minutes of your time. Hope you're very talkative.
Yes.
With that being said, and you're supporting a good cause, making a new friend out of it. Hey, it's a win-win. And starting off, what can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I'm very impressed with you and the show, and I think the idea of starting the show is actually fantastic. There's so many people with learning disabilities and all the types of disabilities that do so well. Most successful people that I know, that we all know, have some kind of learning disability. So I think if anything else can be an asset almost than a problem. A little bit more about myself. So I am actually, starting from the beginning, I came over to the US. I'm originally from Brazil, and I decided that I was learning English for some time, and I want to come in and do an exchange program. So I came as an exchange student the first time and absolutely fell in love with the country. So I went back home and started preparing to come back the second time. And once I did, I was like, no, I really want to stay. My parents are not so much very supportive because I was just 20, I was turning 21. But I decided that I want to come to school here and live here, and that's what I did. It made the transition.
No, how many years ago, and how did you like making the transition?
That was 11 years ago. Yes, it's true. 11 and a half years ago. And it was rough. It was not the whole movie scene I thought it was going to be. And I thought I was going to get here and it was going to be like, oh my God, look, I'm this new explorer adventure, exploring a new country, and everything is so easy. And, the people definitely surprised me the most, where I thought I would have my biggest problem with the people. But the only problem that I really had with people was mainly cultural differences. Little things that, might have offended me or offended Americans that I didn't know about. But it was very rare to run into situations like that. But they did happen. Or you saying something that it means something completely different. I think that the trickiest part for me was definitely learning slangs. And if it is okay to give you an example, and
Go ahead.
It's funny, but it's very inappropriate too. But at the time, I'm now separated. But at the time, I was living in New Mexico with my husband. And one of his friends had made this beautiful piece of work for him. And it was all hand carved and handmade. And I was telling everybody that would come over the house and I'm like, oh my God, look at this thing that, so-and-so did for my husband. And it's all a hand job. So things like that. Instead of handmade, I kept on saying that was a hand job. So, and nobody bothered to correct me, but they would laugh hysterically. And I'm like, oh, okay, until I learned what a hand job was. But, little things like that I wish people would have corrected me sooner and not let me run with it. But I guess it was pretty funny. So, yeah, little nuances like that. That was challenging. And then adapting to the winters was definitely not the easiest. I think 11 years later, I'm still not adapted to the winter. Coming from Rio de Janeiro to long, cold winters in Massachusetts is quite a slight difference. just slightly. So the winters has always been tough. So I've been here for 11 years, and that time I lived in New Mexico for a year, and that was a fantastic experience. Very different than anything I could even dream of. Definitely between the people and being so close to Native Americans and learning so much about that part of the culture that I had never even heard about. That was really cool. And then I decided that we want to come back to the East Coast, so I could go to school. My ex-husband's family is all from Massachusetts, so it made more sense for us to come this way. So in Brazil, I was going to school for communications. So when I moved here, when I started school here, I went for school for visual arts, started the process of that, and then from that I got a scholarship to finish my communications program on a merit-based scholarship. So I went to the University of Massachusetts, got my communications degree, and then again, like life always throws you some major curveballs. I had got everything set up with my school, my entire schedule. I was already a few years behind because I stopped it for 2 years between moving countries. And then I had got the job of my dreams. I was starting my last year in school, and then I found out I was pregnant. And that did not go as planned at all, like not even slightly. So I couldn't take the job because then I want to rush through the classes to finish classes right before or around the time the baby was born. So I had to go full-time, couldn't take the job. So I was kind of bummed out there. But then I finished school that year. My daughter was born in October. 2 weeks later, I went back to school. Since my classes were done in December, I didn't want to miss out. I do not recommend anybody doing that, by the way. It was definitely a very tough time. But it's about, knowing yourself. I knew that if I didn't push through and didn't finish that semester, having a small baby, I would have never done it. Because then would always be, the baby needs me now, or now the baby misses me. Now the baby's talking, she doesn't want me to go. So I think I would always have pushed that and never finished. But at the time my mom was here, so I had a little bit extra help. But that was rough. And then after that, I couldn't get the job that I wanted. I always wanted to work in media, TV, magazines, whatever it was. As long as it was media, that's where I wanted to be. And I couldn't get a job. I don't know if I was doing it wrong or applying it wrong, or if that was just the market not doing so good. But it seems like everybody was getting a job but myself. So I decided didn't want to sit home doing nothing. So I decided it was time to write my children's book that I always wanted to do since I was 11. And having a small child, I was like, this is the perfect time. So I wrote my children's book, and I was able to publish here in the U.S. and in Brazil simultaneously. Then I made some of the watches to go with the book as part of a little collection, and that was very successful. That was really cool. So while I was touring the book in Brazil, I got an offer, I got a call from a colleague saying, hey, I'm working for this luxury magazine out of London as a startup. Why don't you come and join the team? I'm seeing all the work that you're doing, but I think that I don't know if maybe this would be more something that you wanted to do. I was like, yeah, absolutely. That is definitely something I want to do. So when I came back, I started working with them and seeing what they're doing, and the company ended up not making much of it. Out of 6 months, I had to just say goodbye. Didn't see much progress. And I was just so frustrated with always giving out my ideas and nothing happening. And then I finally said, you know what, I can do it better myself. So I decided to open my own company, and I opened Beautiful World International, which is my magazine. And it's more of a digital platform than anything else. So the idea was to create a platform that the readers would enjoy, and not so much for publishers, but that the readers would enjoy and would be a little bit more of a pioneering in the sector, especially in the luxury sector, which is the focus of the magazine, is that, we can have a platform that would feel like a regular flip pages magazine, but we would also have all the written content, the videos, the e-commerce capabilities, and the digital concierge. So to create that was quite more work than simply saying, I'm going to take this magazine idea and I'm going to do it myself. So I ended up becoming this beast of a company with so many facets. And I went from, I'm going to have the freedom in the world and create my own company to working 18 hours a day and being like, oh my God, I just created my own company. This is insane. And I got to make sure that everybody's working. And it was very interesting because before then, while I was in the process of getting funding for the company, I interned with a guy named Paul Carrick Brunson, and he has been my mentor ever since, and he's incredible. Like, Paul had started on his public career as a matchmaker, and then he moved over to work with Oprah and had his own show on the Oprah Winfrey Network. And then he became this really big social media person, helping entrepreneurs, and between the relationship side of his business and then helping entrepreneurs, I was able to intern with him on one of his shows called Mentor Monday. And then from there I learned so much, and through him I was able to start my MBA. He was one of the directors of a new school that was opening in DC, and he talking to me about it, and I was like, there's no way. I live in Massachusetts. I can't go to school in DC. Now I have a small child. But then for some strange reason, on the last day, the last minute of the application, I applied. And then 3 days later, they called me, and off I went. Took my daughter, took the bus, went off to DC. And next thing you know, I signed all the papers and was accepted to school. And then I came home, and I remember sitting at the bus and thinking, what the hell did I just do? I just signed up for school in Washington, D.C. I live in Massachusetts. I'm not moving to D.C. And I just dragged a 3-year-old with me. No, if I was a person that drinks, I'd be like, I sure was drunk to make a move like that. But it wasn't the case. And I started questioning my sanity a little bit. So then in the process, I started school in September. Said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to commute every week from Massachusetts to DC. I finalized the funding process for the company, and I got separated a month later. So it was like September, started school. October, I got funding. November, I got separated from my husband. And then December, we launched the company. So 2014 was definitely a year of 15 was definitely a year of holy shit, what is happening? But I don't think I would have done anything differently. Maybe I would love to have more knowledge of avoiding some of the pitfalls. But now I'm just grateful that I learned them and I can help other people not go through them. I think that's what it's all about.
No, absolutely, and that's the same thing for with me. I want, I suffer from depression and social anxiety and panic attacks, and I basically want to say, with a learning disability, I can still amount to something. I screw up it's uncensored, you can say whatever you want. I fuck up anything that I touch. Whatever I touch, I end up screwing it up. And I'm just saying, look at my talk show. This June will be officially 4 years, knock on wood, officially 4 years that I created something that I haven't screwed up. Yeah, I hit some roadblocks here and there, but I'm very passionate about this. This is what I want to do until I die. And, at the same time, listening and hear you talk, I was just coming up with more ideas saying, maybe I want to do something else besides not just being a talk show host. I want to be like an motivational speaker. Yes, I do want to create my own talk show. But at the same time, I like being in charge. And I was playing with the idea of saying, well, when I'm not doing the talk show, I need something else to do. Why not create my own retail store or something? Because,
I did that.
or just like something and just, you have one idea. It's like, okay, now I'm now a YouTube talk show host. Okay, when you have your days off, what do you do with yourself? And it's like, well, you're not saying that there's some parts of retail that I do enjoy. Yeah, I like just having the freedom and saying, okay, I like opening the boxes, I like stocking the shelves, and feeling in control. I like having the power of saying, I can express myself. So maybe the talk show could open up other outlets for me. Maybe I could create my own. I'm not saying create my own company because that sounds kind of selfish and snobby. But I mean, like,
no, I don't think so. I think that's what it is. I think the more you do, and the more in control you are of your ideas, and you can be your company, and how you take that, what you do with it, is what it matters the most than how you come across. To me, just comes across as somebody who is empowered and ballsy enough to take that leap, and that's what it's all about. I think you should go for it.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it. And, long story short, I mentioned this on my blog for people who want to read it. I started off on my talk show being uncensored. Long story short, some celebrity took the idea, same concept, but without the disability part. But, freedom of speech, freedom of self-expression, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you know what? I want to do something different. Because at the same time, my family was saying, you have to be copyrighted, you have to do this and that. I talked to a lawyer, and he said, all you have to do is to sign a little permission form. Actually, I do need to talk to you about that off the air. And to make a long story short, I took everything down. And a year ago, I took everything down. I said, screw it. Everyone's got to sign a permission form. It introduces myself, tells you what the show is, and you sign it agreeing to let me interview you. And I was thinking I was originally called Uncensored. And then I was thinking, well, I'm also called the KeithAndrewNetWork. But I'm using Uncensored. So which one is it? Are you Uncensored or are you the KeithAndrewNetwork? And I thought it was cool. Because it's like, hey, it's a KeithAndrewNetWork presenting Uncensored. And it's okay. But the more I was thinking about my brand name, I was like, maybe I should be doing something with that name instead of just pulling names out of my ass. Maybe I should, maybe I should just say, maybe I should have marketed something like the KeithAndrewNetWork presents the KeithAndrewNetWork talk show instead of KeithAndrewNetWork presents Uncensored talk show, because Uncensored can be used for you, can be used for me, used for anyone. But the KeithAndrewNetWork, that's mine. And I should take pride in that, saying, hey, I created a name, and I want to turn that name into a brand name. Or maybe turn it into a store name. Or turn it into, like, an actual good talk show where we're sitting on the couch together, like Bill Maher, Dennis Miller, the late night show. That's the type of show I want, but also I want to be entertaining.
No, I agree. I think you should go for it. Even with the store, like, and I mean to interrupt here, but I kind of went through a similar path where, I was doing the magazine and I was doing everything and things were getting a little bit rough, and I was like, no, I want to do something else as well. I want to branch off of what I'm doing and do something else too. So I created my online store, which hopefully will be launching in the next 2 weeks. But, it's been, like, I'm saying hopefully launch next 2 weeks because my deadline to launch was actually March. So now I'm finally saying, okay, now this cannot go any longer. I need to sit down and focus and finish this. And then going through a few transitions. Like I also, after getting my MBA, I transitioned. I wanted to go into finances. And it was more of to challenge myself than anything else. It's just one of those things where, one of those, I don't want to say silly things, but was one of those empowering things where you just stand there and say, can I do this? That is not in a million years I would have ever thought of myself as somebody who would fit in or be in financial services. But then after looking at so many successful people in finance, I'm like, oh, can I do that too? Can I be that person? And I decided to try. I decided to give it a shot because I learned it so much and I went through so much. So like while I was building a very successful company, personally, my finances were like all over the place. And I think if I had things more organized and I knew better, I probably would have done much better with my company, because my mind would be in a different place, in a better place, to focus on what I had to do. So it was a struggle. So for me, I really kind of promised to myself that if I could help anybody to not be in that position, then that I would be fulfilling my mission, I think. Because we can sit here and talk about building business and doing everything all day long. If we are not doing in the right order and our foundation is not laid down for us, eventually it's going to either crumble or you're going to just hit a plateau and you can't move from that point. So, I don't want to see anybody else going through that.
No, absolutely. Now I'm going to go to the number subject, but I usually ask other people, but I'm going to pass the show over to you. When you were growing up, did you ever do any sports, number one? And were you a study nerd or party animal?
As a kid, I was a swimmer. I was a swimmer and a dancer. That was my thing. And I have never been a party animal, to much of my disappointment. I was a study nerd, yeah. I don't think I became real a nerd until I was in the high school, beginning of college. That's when I really started taking serious, because then I was studying other stuff that I loved. There was no more chemistry or physics to deal with and make me cry. But I never been a party animal.
Did you ever get the chance to do one of those human pyramids, or not a human pyramid girl?
No, never did a human pyramid. I don't think it's not a popular thing in Brazil.
Would you be up for one, or are you not into the whole thing?
I don't know. I would have to think about that one.
I love that stuff. I'm a loser.
Huh?
No, I love that stuff. I'm a loser.
That is pretty cool. I'm very jealous of them for being able to do it.
Now I'm going to pass the show over to you. Was there anything you wanted to promote? Anything you want to talk about? This is your time, after all.
Definitely, my magazine. If you guys want to check out, it's bwimagazine.com. Busy Boy, W-I magazine.com. I also have my children's book that is available on Amazon. It's called The Adventures of Xander. And also, I'm going to start launching my store in a few weeks, which is called Vogue My Closet. So I have a few things to promote here. And also, I'll be speaking, and it's a little bit far away, but I'll be speaking at a conference in Toronto in February. And I'm also speaking at a digital travel conference in Singapore in April. So I'm definitely starting 2017 strong. And also now I'm working for a fantastic company as a financial advisor. So if anybody's in need of talking more about and doing a holistic approach to a financial, and avoid the pitfalls that I went through, I would be more than happy to talk to people about that.
Well, like I said, I do have a couple ideas for you off the air. But while on the subject, maybe you would like to write an article about me if you're interested in your magazine. And also, passing the show over to you was my last question, is if you were me and you worked with this finance company, how would you approach people with my talk show?
Say that again, I'm sorry. If I were you and I worked with a financial company,
how would you approach people and getting my talk show out there more?
That's like marketing consulting. I think definitely like word of mouth is great, but there are ways to create. I believe strongly on the power of online and targeting. As SEO is not so much the big thing for me, and I don't necessarily believe that SEO is everything, but there's a ways to target, and sometimes I think the biggest thing that we've been missing um, in marketing per se is like almost human contact. Do not underestimate the value of picking up the phone and calling somebody or reaching out to them. The only thing you might hear is a no, but then I would say, what is their strategy? Who are you trying to reach? And I know we all want to reach everybody, but who would be primary, secondary, tertiary? Craft a strategy for that, or at least know who are trying to target, and then you can talk about or focus on how to get there to working. And I think that the biggest thing too is everybody that you invite to your show, can they introduce you or refer or talk about it to other people that are either their mentors or that are important in their career, and then they could be a guest on the show, and then they could promote that way.
No, absolutely. And if you could recommend anyone, I really appreciate it.
Sure, I'll take a look and send some names your way.
Now, wrapping up with the last 9 minutes left of the show, was there anything you wanted to talk about? Anything you want to ask me? This is your time, after all.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting when you talk about disability, but also mental health, and that has been really strong for me because so many people, and I think this is the first time I'll be publicly talking about it, but there is so many people that I had this come up today where I was meeting with a friend, and they're like, I don't know how you do it all, and you always have all this energy, and you're doing so much, and sometimes when you were doing your masters and going to DC and commuting and having a small child, I thought you were absolutely insane for doing that, and I was just wondering if you could pull it off, and then you did, and I was so impressed, and I think you're somebody many people look up to. And I know I have to remind people that I myself suffer from a couple mental health issues with, I'm a highly functioning depressive person where, it is a struggle. Some days I have to literally pull myself out of bed and then look myself in the mirror and say, you know what, today, right now, you're going to count to 3, you're going to take a deep breath, you're going to tell depression to fuck off, and then you're going to move on with your day, but you're going to do just as much as you can. And I think the biggest problem for me that I'm starting to overcome was that I felt really obligated. The moment that I was able to pull myself out of the bed and say, okay, today I'm doing it, was then I would have a load of things that I was trying to catch up on that day one. And the pressure that I would put on myself was just as bad as the depression itself. So it's like, okay, no, you're not going to do that list that you've been waiting to do for 5 days because you really don't feel like doing, because you really feel like if you could just open a hole in the floor and bury yourself there, you would have. What can you do today? Now that you had the strength to do it, what can I do today? And, some days people see the beautiful Facebook posts and, I'm at this party or I'm at this event or I'm talking to this person, and they don't know that, 3-4 days prior, I could not even take my pajamas off because I just didn't have it in me. And then some days you're like, okay, you get so excited about something and it's hard to go and even do it. So it's an everyday exercise, and you can do so much with whatever disability you have. That shouldn't stop you. It will stop you because I get panic attacks. I had my first major panic attack at 18, and then I had to be on treatment for a whole year. And it was so severe to the point where I had to sleep in the same bed as my parents at the age of 18. And it's something that I do not take for granted, the ability to get up every day and do things and conquer my fears. But I'm also very extreme. So for me, it was like, okay, from 18 to 19, I suffered and had to be in treatment for a whole year, and it was so severe. And then at 20, I was like, okay, what can I do to prove to myself that I am doing well? Oh, how about I go to another country completely alone and then see if that works, you know? So I would do extreme things like that because that's what works for me. And in my mind, it was, I had to program my mind to really tell myself, okay, the reason I'm doing something so extreme is because I cannot fuck this up. If I go to another country alone, I cannot have a panic attack, or I am completely fucked. There's no way. Like, there's nobody there to help me. I'm gonna be sitting on the side of the road, curled up in a ball in a fetus position, and that's gonna be that. And I know that, I think it was kind of like the fight or flight reaction, where I put myself in a predicament, in a position where I had no choice but to overcome. And if I had a slight feeling of something creeping up on me, I would either get help or stop and then put my mind at ease. So, and then it was the same thing with the job. I can't get any job. So what do? Well, I try to create a multi-million-dollar company. Why not? It's going to be so easy while I'm raising a small child, and having no support to back me up, besides my ex-husband, but no family. So, but then you start to feel that pressure. You start to feel that pain. And, sometimes I've been talking to a couple of my mentors, or like, no, sometimes I feel like when I take a look at everything that I'm doing, I'm going to have another panic attack. I'm going to panic because how do I digest it, and how do I do it? So many people are counting on me to do that, and it's paralyzing. That fear of failure can be absolutely paralyzing. So don't think for a second that I don't struggle. It's a daily struggle to make sure things happen, but was also understanding that it's not my fault, but it is something that I can try to control to the best of my abilities. And the best thing for me is to keep busy. The busier I am, the less time I have to focus, and it becomes very robotic to me, where I don't have time to overthink. And oh gosh, I would sit here and overthink my entire life. I overthink things that I did at second grade and be like, oh my God, what did I do? And that's because I did that in second grade that my life, it is the way it is now that I'm 33. And then then I think about it, I'm like, how ridiculous can you be? Like that is, but then I already wasted 3 hours of my day. So that happens, people. It's common, and I'm not ashamed to say that I too go through that. And some days are worse than others, and then some days are fantastic, and other days I don't even want to see the light of the day. So, but that doesn't stop me. If anything, it makes me stronger, because I know that from that I feel a responsibility to help other people to be stronger and more empowered to then go out and say, hey, listen, you're not alone. And I like to talk, so if you put me on a stage and I'm home, I don't have a problem with that. So if that is my gift, if that's my ability, and understanding that, what can I do to help other people? How can I add value or make sure that somebody don't go through, or if they are going through the same struggles that I go through, that I can say, hey, listen, I did this and this is how it's working for me, and it's okay. Some people take medication, some people meditate, some people smoke weed. I don't do either, which I probably should pick one of the three and try to figure out which one works. No, I'm too hyper. So, but I noticed that talking to my mentors and having somebody that I can talk to, whether it was therapy or having somebody, a best friend, a mentor, Buddha, my dog, whoever was willing to help me at the time. My dog is not very willing to help me, to listen to me, by the way. I think he got sick of me pretty quickly. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I will talk to myself. I'll be standing in the mirror, or I'll be setting up little presentations in the living room, and it sounds ridiculous, but you would not believe how many people actually do that. And then I'll come up with some crazy idea. I'm like, oh my God, did I just say that? I'm awesome. I'm so gonna do it. And it works. So that's why I feel like being on stage and presenting and talking to other people and helping is definitely my calling and my duty in life.
No, absolutely. And I don't really Let me just try to phrase it. I know people who talk to themselves out loud, and I don't do that, but I do talk to myself in my head, and I kind of freak myself out when when I answer myself. It's like, maybe you should do this. And I'm like, well, where the hell did that come from? but it's, hey, we're only human, and to be honest, I'm trying to be an inspiration for people out there, and I hope I am. But you can do laps around me because you came from Brazil. You're now rich and famous. And,
I wish.
But you did all these great things, and I don't know. I guess in a way I should stop comparing myself to people, because I try to compare myself to my brother because I look up to my brother. I try to compare myself to you, and it's just, if you try to please everyone, you're only going to set yourself up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I'm doing the best I can with a learning disability. I look for people, I promote myself, and I'm doing everything, and to everyone says, you're doing this great thing, but to me, it feels like it's moving, but it's not moving fast enough.
We all feel that way, and I think the biggest lesson that I'm learning, I haven't learned that yet, I'm still work in progress, was that the voice in my head when I'm starting saying those things, it's not real. It's that sucker that should get punched in the face, because they're gonna do nothing but try to tear you apart. And is the insecurities, the depression, is the mental health side of us that paralyzes us. And that's why I said, for me, it works best to keep busy, because I don't have the time to think and compare. And then when you see yourself busy, the busiest I become, then it really feels to me like I'm conquering something, like I'm achieving something, even if it is not that much, even if it is just getting my kid to school, going to work, working on my store, and then getting groceries and coming home, and then it's 8 o'clock. I'm like, oh my God, I did everything from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., and I conquered all these things. And they're just basic things that on a normal day, I would be so overwhelmed by trying to do them all together. So to do something like that is like a major win for me. And I do that too. Like, I look at, not Oprah, because I think that would be kind of a little bit stupid, but we tend to look to people that are just like us, but they are ahead. And then we forget to look 5 years behind them. What were they doing? How were they doing it? I go through that all the time. I look at other people who have started media companies and other magazines who are now, well into the millions of dollars, and getting exclusive interviews with some major celebrities. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I not that fast? And then I got to remind myself, remember, you're the person with no family around, no friends, no structure. You started from scratch 10 years ago, and you're trying to build. These people are already 40, and they have their family lives the next town over. They have the entire home life worked out. They have friends from previous work, cousins, everybody that are together. They have that entire support that I don't have. So then I'm like, then at that point, I'm like, I don't know if I feel better or if I feel worse for myself for not having, but then I'll call somebody and be like, can you just hear me bitch for 10 minutes? I'll feel so much better, and I'll love you forever. And you're like, sure, go ahead. So finding those people, and finding people that connect with you, that have either a similar story or are doing something. Do not find people with the same struggles that are only struggling, because you get sucked in.
Yeah.
With I think that the biggest problem with our mental health issue is that we are very easily turned to the dark side. It's hard to pull up and get up every morning and do the big things, but it's so quick to just go go downhill and kind of think that that's the real life. So if you can find people who maybe have a similar struggle, but that are doing something to change and empower people, or people who are completely different and opposite of you, that you can learn so much. And I think that also goes back to tolerance, or not being, being tolerant of people of different cultures. I try to always meet and be friends with people from all kinds of backgrounds, of kinds of religions. I'm a Christian myself, but I had a great friend in school who was Muslim. And when I say Muslim, she was a woman who would come to my house sometimes to stay over, covered head to toe. My dog could not get near her because it was part of the religion. Like, dogs were not to be next to human. And the moment I invited her to my house, I knew that I was not going to try to push that onto her.
Yeah.
It was my choice. So I was respectful of her, and I wanted to learn so much about her and the culture, and everything was so fascinating. I have people from all kinds of backgrounds, and rich, poor, people who are starting, people who are halfway there, people who made it, and I learned so much from everybody. And then find good mentors that who help you. That's the biggest advice I can give.
All right. Now, I do have a couple questions for you off the air about wrapping up. Going on the record. When I first approached you, what was your honest opinion of me? And after being interviewed, how do you feel now?
I have to apologize because you asked me months ago, and just went to that limbo box on Facebook since they changed everything. So I was sitting there at the limbo messages, as I call, for a while. So I felt awful not responding. But, I thought it was really cool. Definitely the only thing that stuck to me was I have a learning disability and I have a show. And I'm like, hell yeah, I don't know who you are, but I'm definitely going to do it. It's about helping people. And if somebody has an issue and they're trying to overcome, I'm the first one to raise my hand. Absolutely. And now that we did the interview, I'm so glad that I found that message on the limbo box. And I commend you for doing what you're doing. I think it's amazing. And again, you're not alone. You are inspiration for all of us. And if you ever need any advice or want to ask any questions, now you know how to reach me. Please ask away.
No, absolutely. And it's likewise for you. Now, I do have a couple questions for off the air. Wrapping up the interview segment, I just want to say thank you for being a guest, and I'm looking forward to getting a chance to know you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm also looking forward to it. Where are you located?
Oh, in New York.
Oh, cool. I was just there yesterday. Yeah, it's my life. I should have a membership to Acela or the Commuter or Peter Pan. I think someday I was so mad of taking the Peter Pan for 1 year to go to DC and back that I'm determined that someday I'm going to buy Peter Pan bus and turn into an amazing, luxurious bus to take people from New York to DC. Because I'm just so mad that I have to endure that. So now I'm determined to buy them.
Well, if you're ever in the area, we should definitely hang out.
Absolutely. I'll let you know next time I'm coming to New York.